I'm curious about what you think in terms of the dichotomy moving forward between the impact of monetary policy in the face of basically a non-gridlock Congress and a highly impactful in policy like new policies from Trump. So, it feels like the big debate is, like what can the Fed really do in the face of that? So if Trump comes out and with a fully red Congress and decides to implement tariffs, et cetera, tax cuts, like how much power or like strength or stronghold does the Fed even have on impacting the economy in the face of just, maybe believe that's fiscal dominance, maybe not, but just curious your thoughts.
Well, I thought one of the more interesting conversations um, is at the beginning of the press conference was Chairman Powell basically outlining and making very, very clear that prospective policies from a new administration has zero impact on the Fed's actions until those policies are approved and implemented and have influence on macroeconomic outcomes. Right. So just think about that. What that means is that, and there's a lot of people in the pundit class here, in the macro pundit class, who will say because Trump's coming in, it will have an influence on the Fed. I just want to emphasize it will have zero influence on the Fed until the policies are actually implemented and have a macroeconomic effect. What that means, and I think it's very important, is we're in a time frame where most likely the Trump administration will pursue a number of pro-growth policies, essentially running more expansionary fiscal policy directly and indirectly into an already hot economy. But the Fed will not respond to that until they see it, which means the Fed is going to keep up their cutting cycle, even though there's a bunch of, canisters of gasoline sitting around by the fiscal authorities ready to dump it on this economy. And the Fed is operating blind in response to that. And so I think that creates one of the more interesting dynamics that we're likely to see, which is if you look over the next 6 months, we're going to get a bunch of monetary easing. And then over the subsequent 6 to 12 months, we're going to get a bunch of fiscal easing. And then only then are we likely to see all of that show up into the data, higher inflation, all of those things. And only then will the Fed respond. And so we could easily have basically a huge impulse of
Yeah.
easing from a fiscal and monetary perspective during this time frame before anyone catches themselves. And only adding to that is Powell's delusion that inflation is absolutely beaten 2% and will never go higher than that out into the future.